Hi, welcome to Platonics. I'm George.
I'm Rocky. This is the show where we turn bits of fiction into game sessions. I am like, I've got some momentum, George. I've come literally straight off the rolling credits of the thing we're going to talk about this month, and I'm ready to get straight into it.
All right then, shall we set the scene?
Paint me a word picture.
The internet is an irradiated wasteland. Outside the walls of this podcast, cursed earth. Inside the walls, cursed content. The structures of the new podcast built upon the ruins of the old. The metaphor breaks down. Rocky, we're talking about Dredd.
We are talking about Dredd. It was requested not once but 3 times in the Discord. All by the same person.
In the same sentence.
In the same sentence. I believe the request was Dredd, and more Dredd.
Now, just to be clear, this
doing.
is the judge who is Dredd, not the role-playing game, which is Dredd.
Yes, it's very obvious when you read it, and I've just realized that it is not at all obvious when you say it out loud. But yes, we are talking about Judge Dredd, a franchise that up until this morning, up until 90 scant minutes ago, I had not engaged with at all in my life, and now I'm like, with the confidence that only a mediocre white man can bring, I'm ready to adapt this.
Absolutely. I'm ready to argue with people on the internet about this.
I watched this movie this morning, and I'm ready to adapt it.
All right. Can we get your take with this freshness of what is Dredd?
Dredd is a movie about a man in a silly hat who hunts down forbidden asthma puffers. And the whole point of the movie, which I suspect I shall come back to as my thoughts develop, it feels like the whole point of the movie is to have as many moments where he says something cool and then pulls the trigger of a gun as possible. Mm-hmm. And that's it. It's set in your sort of very generic mega city. Everyone lives in like arcology-esque slum towers, essentially. And the judges are famously judge, jury, and executioner, and go around like
dispensing justice.
No, what is it? It's they're like shampoo, conditioner, and body wash all in one. It's like, that's these guys, but for the justice system.
Now, I know we talk a lot about being mediocre white men, but just for any other young men that are listening right now, buy separate bottles of each of those products. One does not do a very good job, and that's kind of reflective of the society we're about to discuss. The separation of products is important in the bathroom, and the separation of powers is important for society.
Look, that was beautiful. That was very smooth. And I think you're right. I don't think our titular judge, jury, and executioner is particularly good at any of his jobs.
He's very good at one of them. He does a lot of executing.
True. He does a lot of executionering. Yeah, it's a classic like cop trapped in a slum and has to do hyperviolence to get out.
It's a bottle movie.
It starts as a crime, and very quickly within the first 5 minutes of the movie, it's like, and they're locked in and have to fight their way out. Like the pretense of crime solving is gone, and this is now just a slugfest.
I've just realized we should also clarify we are specifically talking about the 2012 Dredd film with Carl Urban as Judge Dredd.
Not that you can tell, because I don't think he removes his helmet at all.
Which is part of the character.
But he's look, it's all I can say is it's good that they picked a man with a strong jawline. Because that's all you get to see. So yeah, what we have here is a thinly veiled excuse for violence set in a pretty generic dystopian future. We're not really doing too much questioning of the like, are the cops the baddies? It's like,
I
no,
think
the
this,
drug.
like, if you posted this on Am I the Asshole, it would be everyone sucks here.
Yeah. So I guess in this film in particular, he goes in to investigate the drug production. Well, he goes in to investigate some murders,
Murders.
and then gets caught up in a drug cartel who want to protect their monopoly over the building and expand it to other buildings. And they do this by locking down the building into war mode and trying to kill Dredd and Anderson before they can shut down their operation. And I don't think I am doing the film a disservice when I say, like, and that's it, that's the plot. And the rest is just a series of beautifully gratuitous set pieces. And everything that you think is going to happen is going to happen. The beautiful sidekick gets taken hostage. You know, Dredd gets shot, but it's okay. It doesn't kill him. He patches himself up. Like, everything that you think is going to happen happens. And it's really about, honestly, enjoying the quips and enjoying the gore almost, right? Like, it's a movie that does not shy away from liberal use of fake blood-filled sacks of various kinds.
I genuinely think
The scene at the end where she hits the ground was just, I did not see that coming, and that was just, like, disgusting, but incredible cinematography.
The cinematography in this film is genuinely phenomenal, and like the constant changes between like the gritty, shitty, dark, dirty aesthetic to when somebody's high on slow-mo and the saturation goes right up and the colors pop and the music changes when you got all these little sparkles in there. Like, it does a great job of showing why you would want to get high. When you live in this background and then you puff this thing, it's great. Everything's slow and cool. It's just really upsetting that when you're getting high, the judge walks into the room and then you experience the horror of that for a really long subjective amount of time.
It made excellent use of the slow-mo as a like in-universe slow-mo. I thought that was really well done.
So I think this is a perfect movie. It sets its premise. It lives up to its premise. It never betrays it. Structurally, it is flawless. It gives the audience exactly what they came here to see. Like, at no stage does it try to be anything other than what it says it is. You know exactly what you're getting for, and it delivers.
I mean, I didn't know what I was getting into, but I figured it out very quickly.
And like it telegraphs early. Yeah, you said
very,
within,
very
10
quickly.
minutes, the barriers are down. They're in there. It's now a bottle movie. And you know, like, the goal of this movie is they get to the top. We have established the stakes are drug lord at the top, judges at the bottom. They have to go up. And you're like, great, I understand this gauntlet. Let's run it.
There's a whole category of these things where it's like, yeah, in with a job to do, but very quickly your job becomes get out alive.
Let's talk about the world building for a second, because I think the movie delivers pretty well on this, right? It has the opening monologue where we say that the city stretches from Boston to DC. It's gargantuan. It has 800 million people living in it. That gives you a vibe, right? Then we cut to the bit where he's giving like the briefing, the exposition to the rookie Anderson, and we get to run through like there are crimes reported, like what is it, like 17 every minute or something like that. Serious crimes are reported every minute. That's this many thousand per day. We respond to about 6% of them. So like you already know that most crimes go unpunished. So why wouldn't you do crime? Statistically, yeah, you would do crime. Like, unemployment in Peachtrees is 97%. Most people don't have jobs, but we also know that it's still a capitalist society. So what does that leave people to do? Crime. And everything's crime, including homelessness. It's all crime all the way down, and the only form of government is roaming patrols of executioners. That's pretty wild. And like,
Yeah.
they don't dress it up at all either. Like, if they kill someone or if they need someone to be taken to the ISO cubes, which, is a heinous punishment in and of itself, they call up the meat wagon. And the meat wagon acknowledges that they are called the meat wagon. Like, it's not like a nickname. That's the title of the thing. There's no PR spin in this world. There's no community policing. There's one speed, and it's lethal. It's the future as was imagined when America in particular was going through a massive crime wave, right? They're like, well, crime will never go down, but the number of people will go up. Let's just extrapolate on that premise.
It's clearly from the same, I guess, set of social problems. I'm thinking specifically that spawned RoboCop.
Yes.
Right? It's like that crime is a huge problem, and the fantasy of that particular era is people who are empowered technologically, legally to just like fix all the crime. That's the power fantasy that we want in, I'm going to guess like the 80s.
To keep people safe nominally, but collateral damage happens all the time.
Yeah.
So like, this is like a good one of raising the question of, are they actually fixing any of the problems? Are they making them worse? And I feel pretty confident in saying they're making it worse. But
importantly, though, the movie addresses none of this.
Yeah, the movie
this
touches
is all,
on none
This
of
is
it.
all just things that Jordan thinks about when he watches the opening monologue. None of it is said on screen. And then we go straight into like Carl Urban's chin shooting people. And this is
I do think this is
you just have to
phenomenal
let
for
this
us.
all percolate in the background.
It's not just the opening 2 minutes that I'm extrapolating from. It's the like callousness of all the participants of the world. Like 3 bodies land kersplat in the middle of an atrium. And then later on when they're being cleaned up, we see someone just like cruise across in one of those ride-on mall cleaners, just smearing blood around on the floor. And people going about their daily lives. I think that sends a really strong message that this game that we're about to play is not about humanity. It is not about dwelling on the what ifs or the whys or the morals. It is a game about being a murder hobo and you are legally justified to do it.
So what do we actually, to get that feeling that we want, what are we actually bringing to the table?
Right. I got a couple things here, right? If we're going to run this as a bottle episode, so it's straight up, the boundaries of the world are really contained. That's great. We're just prepping a single location. It's got a bunch of those set pieces along the way, but in the movie, none of those set pieces are super important. They don't have a really strong visual identity. It's like we have corridors, we have a shot across the atrium, we have like elevators that go up. I think a really powerful structure for this one is a depth crawl.
What's a depth crawl?
A procedurally generated point crawl, where what I'm going to be prepping for this location is just like a couple different tables that will be a location, a vibe, like a nominal encounter that might happen there. They're all 3 different tables, and then you roll your dice for each of them and assemble them together on the spot. So I say, it's a corridor, like our next encounter was a corridor. There's a roaming gang of like low-level thugs in here, and the aesthetic is like high-density slum living. We slap that all together, I narrate that out as the scene, and then the players progress through that encounter. They avoid it, they hide in one of the locations, they kill the dudes. However they negotiate that encounter, we get to the next step, and they can choose to continue going up the mega structure and increase a nominal value that we track to show how far they've gone up. So it's literally like the number of levels that they've ascended. Or they can go back to a previous level, and we kind of like, we're building the train tracks as we're going across them. So it's really easy to turn around and go back somewhere else, hide out, have a kip, take a rest, or you just choose to go forwards and we roll again and see how far you get and what that space looks like and who's populating it. There are 2 phenomenal examples of depth crawls out there that are the Gardens of Yin and the Stygian Library. In the Gardens of Yin, it's all flavored around you're in a Fey garden and you're doing the same thing. Like, you go into there for a purpose, You generate the scene as you progress, and we determine how far you get into the garden to reach certain layers of encounters. The Stygian Library is one of those, it's kind of very Terry Pratchett-esque. Whenever there are too many books together, a doorway opens into the Stygian Library. It's an infinite library. You can store whatever book you need your players to get right at the end. You just give it a depth level for how rare it is, depth 17. And then the players use this structure to move through it as you're generating scenes for them to engage in. So I think this fits really nicely to big mega structure that's mostly the same theme, but the specific spots where we play are the things that we roll up on the spot.
Yeah, that's very much what I had. I made a little list of like, as I went through the movie, I'm like, here's all the things that they face. It's like, they have an ambush, they have a patrol going door to door, they have a lockdown, someone brings out a big gun, someone takes a hostage and now it's a rescue. There's a proto-moral dilemma with the kids. The fake judges show up. They almost have like one of every type of challenge. Mm-hmm. And so similarly, they go through one of every type of environment. It's like we have a couple of shootouts in corridors, but then we have one that's like across the atrium and it's big and open, and one that's like in the drug lab, and one that's like in the villain's lair. So we have like basically one of each location, and we're kind of just matching location to challenge type. I think just purely based on my observation that, yeah, we almost get one of everything. Also based on the fact that I hate rolling on tables. I would do these on cards instead, and that way you're not going to accidentally roll corridor every time. You know that the players are going to get one of everything, and as you work your way through the shuffled deck, you're going to get, and it doesn't have to be like fancy just to cards. Be clear, you just like write it on index cards.
You're doing the same thing. You're just pulling cards from the deck and assembling them together instead of the mechanism of using a table.
Yes, but the important thing about cards is that once you've drawn a card, it can't happen again.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's really important when the situation is going to be quite, as you said, it's like, it's all kind of the same vibe. And the last thing you want is to like roll corridor several times in a row, because I think that starts to get boring, and I would absolutely put a couple of corridor cards in the deck. So we get a couple of corridor scenes, but like, I think I want the reliability of making sure that all or a more reliable spread of scenarios happens, than I want the randomness of a table. And like, for example, there's one that happens like outside the complex's movie theater at a payphone. That's not something that's a little bit distinctive. It's not something you want to come up twice. So I think I want the exclusivity of cards, and then I would like stack the deck with a few copies of Corridor. But like, we want those more recognizable locations to kind of only come up once.
That's fair. And I mean, I would just re-roll on the table, but like, I see where you're coming from.
No, that's a step I don't want to take. That's brain power I don't want to spend at the table. I don't want to be doing that. I want to like pick up the card, look at it, and know that whatever's written on the card is good. I don't want to have to be thinking about like, what number is that? Look it up on the table. Already had that one. All right, back to the dice. Nope, too much thinking. Only react to what's in front of me.
Seamless
Judge
reaction.
Dredd style.
All right, you win on the meta level of this one. One thing, like you already just addressed it, right? The baddies that we see in there, it starts off as low-level drug den with just a bunch of dudes that absolutely get schooled. And then we get up to the roaming gangs, which have a bit more heavy hardware and more dudes. Like the encounter escalates as we get higher. Then we have 3 miniguns on the other side of an atrium. Then we have 4 corrupt judges show up, like ultimate elite bad guys. It scales in difficulty as the movie progresses in time and as our protagonists ascend the tower. So it's really easy for you to structure your, like, who are we going to encounter at this stage of the depth crawl by referencing the height. So in a typical depth crawl, we'd refer to depth, as the value that we're scaling, but in this case it's like height above ground as you get to the top of the megastructure. So I'm going to call it height for the sake of the discussion. As height gets bigger, the entries on the table that I would roll on for encounter get bigger. It's just a static modifier that you would add to a dice roll. I don't know if you can as easily do that in a deck unless you're pre-cutting your deck. So yeah, like, I have my like 3.
I think that's exactly what you do. You shuffle your level 1 baddies and then you put them on the.
But then you have
shuffle
to
your
play
high level
through
baddies,
all your
put them on
level
the
1
bottom.
baddies, you know?
I'm not envisaging a huge number in there.
I think table works better for adding a mod.
Yeah, look, I do like the neatness of having the floor number as a modifier. Maybe it's one of each. Maybe it's a table and
so elegant.
a deck. One of each. Meet in the middle. Compromise.
All right, so we're pretty much agreed though. This type of fiction can be modeled well by a depth crawl.
Yeah.
And then we're just literally drawing out your map as you're generating the encounters if people need to jump back or forwards or whatever it is.
It's not dissimilar to what we kind of described for John Wick, really. In that we are always sort of plowing ahead and always plowing through baddies. I think that could be a valid way to run it.
Yes, but in our John Wick structure, we're constantly just pointing the characters in a new direction. It's like fight through to this location, and then you get the clue that directs you hard to the next one.
This one is much more contained and much more straightforward. Like, exactly. Yeah, I think it being in a tower is different, but we're going for a similar kind of constant forwards progression, and not, I think importantly, not really too much mystery solving around where they need to go next. It's just up.
Up is good. And like sometimes it's option A up is heavily guarded. Where is option B up? Option B up over there. Okay. Like there's remarkably little player agency in how to ascend. The options are pretty much go up, go down, stay.
And stay is not, as he told Anderson. Basically, you're saying we should defend or hide. Not the correct answer.
Bad choice.
But yeah, I actually think that is something that is worth kind of making sure that you build the thing in such a way that, like, actually, yeah, hunkering down and defending anywhere is not really an option for the players. Mm-hmm. Like, as soon as the lockdown comes in, it's like, it's really obvious, like, oh, this only ends when he kills the boss. Mm-hmm. Even though that's never stated on screen, and that's the same kind of, I guess, stakes have to be obvious for your players. It's like, yeah, this is not a thing where you get to like hunker down and just survive and hide or sneak out. This is like, there is one very clear objective from the top, or from the bottom, I guess, and the objective is out the top, from the top of the session. But the bottom
top
of the
bottom, there's one objective: to take it all the way to the middle.
Compromise. I think that really works as a like challenge / physical layout structure. I have another thing structurally that I think is worth prepping as well, and it's almost something I think that you prep for / with your players. So I had this incredible light bulb moment while watching the film and taking the notes, where I was like, the key moment, the moment that we're trying to get to in every scene is the, like, you point your gun at the baddie, you say a quip, and you pull the trigger, right? Like, that's the thing that we are like pulling the lever and trying to get to is that moment, right? Like, that is the core moment of the film, is where you say, I am the law, and then like just shoots the guy, right? That's the power fantasy that we're chasing. That's the moment that we're after. The moment that the thing that we want to feel is we want to feel judge, jury, and executioner. We want to say your crime, this, verdict, guilty, punishment, death, like, and then pull the trigger. So that's one kind of thing that the players are trying to get to. I think the other like set of toys that we really want players to have are all of the like novelty ammo types.
Absolutely.
And like
I had this one down as
novelty
well.
grenades. Like it's like you have a stun grenade and a gas grenade, and you have like incendiary rounds. And again,
High explosive rounds.
We make sure that everyone can be used once and then it runs out. And so every gadget on the gun gets used one time, but he doesn't really come back to them because that's not fun for the audience to watch. But I think it is also a fun challenge for our players to be like, okay, well, you have all of these like different ammos, these novelty ammos, and you can use each of them once, which again, I think really lends itself to a expendable card type structure. The incredible revelation that I had while watching the movie is how beautifully tied together those two things are, where by having the gun be voice activated, sometimes choosing a cool ammo type to use, which is a like core experience that we want to have, and saying the quip are the same thing. It'll just be hot shot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what? I said hot shot. And then it like,
bang,
it melts the guy's head. Or like he just says high explosive and then pulls the trigger. And I love the elegance of that the choosing of the cool ammo, the cool toy, and the deploying of it, and the making of the quip have been like collapsed into
married
the same
together.
moment. So I think you absolutely want to give the players a little deck of like single-use fun ammo types, and then I think you have to explicitly like bolt on a rule that like if you're going to use an ammo type, like your gun is voice activated, so you need to say the ammo type before you use it, and that is just going to create those moments even without you having to, you know, prompt the players into being like, oh, what is the crime, what is the, which I think you absolutely should do. You absolutely want to have them like role playing that power fantasy moment. But I think those two lend each other to working together so well that like, yeah, just making sure that whatever format, whatever system you're playing in, that the players have these single use ammos, and that doing a quip is part of like deploying the ammo. I think that is actually a beautiful piece of game design that they accidentally included in the movie.
Oh, that's so easy for us then. We don't have to do any work.
We just pick up the stuff that we find lying around.
I do really like that though. Like, it goes to great lengths to show off how he's problem solving in the moment with like, deploy this thing now, nullify this encounter easily. The grenades one I find particularly interesting because it really reminds me of the Blade's backpack, where it's like, you know, you might have a bandolier and you've got 3 grenades on it, but he scans his grenade over his little arm bracelet, and that codes it to do a particular thing. So it's like, the way that this grenade is deployed is entirely flexible. You choose it at the moment of deployment. So I really like that, but his gun is not the same. Because we get to the bit where he's used his special bullets and then he's cycling through them. Be like,
yeah, and it's like all he's got left is high explosive.
No normal bullet. Okay, incendiary, empty. Which
again, it's one of those things that it could have been a role-playing game moment. Like you can see that happening at the table where it's like, I really need to kill this guy. It's like,
I'm looking at my character sheet.
I'm like, all I've got left is my high explosive round. Well, I guess I'm exploding this guy's head.
Yes. This also does imply another aspect to what I think the game session should reflect, and that is a scarcity of resources. So like, it's a big deal when he runs out of ammo. Like, that's a problem for him. And then we have the corrupt judges there as a beautiful plot device for him to restock, reload, get red. That's like the equivalent of a short rest, right? He literally field dresses his wound, stocks back up on ammo, and we're good to go for the final boss.
I think he even says like reload. It's almost Dragon Ball-esque in his requirement to announce the name of every move he's making.
Judge Dredd is Goku. You heard it here first. If he ever took his helmet off,
he's just going Super Saiyan under there.
I did also have written down, I love how as he's walking around, like before he's killing people, the phrase is, your crime is, or his crime is. And it's just like always saying a thing that sounds plausible enough, because it doesn't need to be ironclad. He's the jury as well.
He only has to convince himself.
You helped, bang. So I think it's like a strong identity thing to be like, well, I'm going to go on the warpath in this next corridor. Their crime is aiding and abetting a criminal. And I'm justified for whatever actions I'm about to do. I would love to have my players drop those lines in there to reinforce tone.
It's a really strong structure for the players to step into. Like, having so many catchphrases and such, like, iconic catchphrases to choose from, like, it's the kind of thing where as a game master you want to be setting up those moments for your players so you can knock them down. So you want your bad guys to beg for mercy, you want them to ask what their crime is. So I think that's probably a thing that you would prep for yourself, not necessarily a list of like that kind of thing, but like just little reminders for yourself to be like, dot point, like, have I begged for mercy in this scene? Have I asked what I've done wrong in this scene? Have I like tried to bargain? Heck, make yourself a little deck of those or a little table of those, and and roll on that at the end of each encounter to set the players up to be able to say, I am the law, or just yeah. and shoot the guy.
So I think we've got quite a bit here, right? We know that our structure is going to be a depth crawl. So we're going to be prepping some like key locations. We're going to be prepping some different aesthetics to apply to those locations. And then we're going to apply like a list of bad guys in escalating difficulty. So they're going to start off like relatively small groups of baddies that are easily dispatched. And then we climb up to like the equivalent of corrupt judges, which are just like almost equal in strength to the players. So like significant threat to life. And then we have our like player toys that are available are like one-use items that require saying the thing to deploy them. And then like a little list of things on your side of the screen, which are, what are the things that I'm going to do? What are the affordances I'm going to give my players, the opportunities for them to key off for begging for mercy, for asking what my crime was, for like saying something nasty that allows them to like boing, flip and retort with like a summary execution attached to the end of that.
The thing I like about this one is, way back when we first conceptualized this show, it was based on this conversation we had about like how good prep was, you know what the structure is and you know what the content is, but until you're at the table, you're not locking content into the structure. So the content is free floating and the structure is there, and good prep should like apply the content to the structure on the fly. And I like this because it's both sides doing it, right? Like, you both have the same structure. You have this tower that you are trying to get to the top of. And as a game master, you have a stack of baddies or scenarios or whatever that you are locking in as the players make their way through. And as players, you also have a supply of like quips and weapons and like fun toys, and you are deploying those in response. And you are both just like working your way through this structure to the end, and you know how big the structure is, you know what the end point is, you know how many floors you need to get up, and everyone knows this, and it's just about like locking in whatever is going to be most fun as you work your way through that. So I think because it's such a bubble, such a bottle, as you said, it's like everyone knows what the structure is, everyone knows the assumptions, everyone knows what the content is, and the game is just like matching one to the other to try and generate the most fun scenario But I love that it's symmetrical in that respect in some ways. That it's, yeah, the players are also doing a resource management game of trying to pick what is going to be the funnest like way to dispatch this guy, but saving by high explosive round. And on the GM side, you're doing a similar thing. You're like, what is going to challenge the players? What do I need to put in next? What have they already had? And what do we need to do to mix things up and keep things interesting, and pulling from a list that you've prepared in advance, but haven't necessarily defined where and when things happen.
You haven't just used GM fiat to put things down in front. No, we're figuring it out in the moment together. And that means as a GM, you get to be surprised by what you roll up on the table and deploy and be like, oh shit, this is scary. I can't wait to see how you guys solve this problem.
Yeah.
Right. I feel strong. So what are we going to run it in?
Oh,
I have some thoughts, and they might surprise you.
I actually genuinely don't know on this one, because it's not a type of game that I play a lot. And spoilers for our last question. It's after that conversation is one that maybe I want to. But yeah, I am curious to hear your thoughts, because I'm betting that you have some.
I do. My first choice would be A Quiet Year.
That's the new most inappropriate use of the quiet year.
Okay, that is absolutely a joke. I would not ever do that. It's just the wrong game.
Can you even imagine?
No, what I think I would use for this would be something in the OSR sphere. So an old school Renaissance style game, but I would beef the character HP a little bit. I want to take away from the like super deadliness at low levels, and I want them to be just a little bit more tanky so that we have a good, like effectively dungeon crawl experience as they ascend the megastructure. I think Cyborg would be a really good one from the Morkborg family of games. I'd reflavor a little bit, and I'd take perhaps a little bit of emphasis off the like hardcore hacking type things, because the hacking that we see in Dredd is very much man in front of keyboard still, and like social engineering. We don't have deep dives into cyberspace. So I would go for something along those lines where characters might be like relatively universal, and our one-shot items then slot in super well, where it's like your character is defined by the items that they're carrying.
What is that other game that you always bring up where it's like, your character is just like your list of items?
Oh god, which one? Knave?
Maybe? I don't know.
Index card RPG?
Maybe? It could be that.
Index card RPG would work really well for this, actually, because you can do quite nice spatially laid out pitched battles. And if you haven't read the Index card RPG like core rulebook, it's full of fantastic GM advice for running that style of game. Like it actually tells you how you should lay out a map with cover such that certain types of play happen, like encouraging your players to move out of cover and move forwards. How would you actually put that cover down on the map spatially? Which is something that I think is super missing. Not a lot of traditional media tell people why you build a map in a certain way. And I've certainly played some rather lackluster spatial layouts before, where the map basically doesn't do anything interesting. It doesn't act like a thing that allows players to execute agency. So even in the abstract theater of the mind space, Index card RPG is phenomenal for that. Yeah, it's based on Index cards, so I assume you'd love that.
Oh man, every time I go to Officeworks, I buy some more like interestingly shaped or sized like index cards. I'm like, I have so many. I'm never going to use all of these. I literally have too many to use. But they make me happy. I love the tactility. Did you have another thought on system, or was that it?
No. I think this one, I wouldn't choose a Forge in the Dark game for this one, if that's what you're fishing for.
That is what I was fishing for, yes.
Because this is a game that's primarily about action and killing and combat. And Blades is about people and consequences, regardless of whether that's combat or any other type of interaction. I think to showcase the violence that we want systems for that. I think the numbers matter to evoke the feelings that we want.
I have 2 picks, but they're based purely... I haven't gone out and picked these because I think they will match. They are based purely on things that I have played or read or whatever, researched for previous episodes, because, as I mentioned at the start, I literally just went straight from the credits to sitting down. So I have done no research to try and match a good system to this.
T plus 2.5 hours since you started watching this film.
I've known about Dredd for 3 hours, and one of them has been in this podcast. So one of them that comes to mind is liminal horror, which is, when you said depth crawls, that was kind of one of the best depth crawl type things I've played in recent years. I think it does a couple of things really well. It does the very limited selection of single use gear quite well, and it also does the players and the GM both have a blank map in front of them, and they fill it out as they go, which I think could work really well for this. And it is also, at least the one that I played, nominally set in a facility with multiple floors that you work your way through. So you'd have to pull all of the liminal horror out of liminal horror, but I think that structure would work really well. Probably the other one I would go and take a look at. I don't know if it would fit well, but again, when we were chatting before and I mentioned it felt a bit John Wicky, I reckon you could probably have a go at doing this in Wushu. I'd have to go back and check what Wushu's rules for special weapons type stuff are, because that's not really what the game's about, but I'm sure they're in there.
I can see Wushu working quite well.
The bonus points for describing the violence, or the bonus dice for you mechanically getting better for being more descriptive, I think really matches the tone of the film, at least.
It's an easy one as well to be you get a bonus dice if you tell them what their crime is.
Exactly. I was thinking exactly the same
marries
thing.
perfectly,
if you have a quip, look, maybe that's how you bolt it in. Maybe using one of your, we run this special ammo entirely outside the system. It's hey, you just have one of each, but that's a free detail that you can add to any scene, right? Anytime you're using a special ammo, that's a free detail dice, but you only have a set number of them. And it could be something as simple as that, and get them to cross those off each time they do it. But yeah, I think Wushu could be quite good, and kind of leans the other way, less into the tactical crunchiness, I think, of OSR, and more into the very stylistic violence of the film. And so if you wanted to play up that angle and not the tactical angle that the film kind of has as well, then I think Wushu could be a good pick.
Look, I'd take it. I think Wushu can fit quite well in that structure. Yeah, more cinematic, less gritty.
Yeah,
more cinematic.
Exactly. It depends on which aspects of the film you like and which aspects you want to play up. Do you want them to feel like they're tactical operatives who happen to be making some quips, or do you want it to feel like they're very comic booky, with lots of that hyper violence and lots of that stylized, literal slow-mo movement? You can pick your vibe and pick a system that's going to amplify the vibe that you want, I think. Because there's some different aspects of the Dredd vibe to choose from.
Look, we got choices. And this is one of the things that I love about how we go about determining what's important and what vibes we want to evoke. You mentioned this earlier, but when we put up a post on Reddit or something and someone says, you should use X system, but without any justification as to the structure and how that's supporting this type of play. This one, we got 3-4 viable options that will all fit the game.
5 if you include the quiet year.
We do not. That's wrong.
Sorry, you were saying.
You've got these different ways that you can peek through to get the underlying experience of Dredd 2012.
Speaking of systems and vibes and things that do and perhaps don't align. Would you run this in 5e?
I would.
Blah, 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 blah.
I actually think this would be a really good one if you gave your characters a bunch of one-shot magic items. Of course, they'll still have all of their usual kit as well. But I think this would be just like a very easy fit for relatively super heroic characters murder hoboing their way up through a dungeon to reach the top level and fight a boss. And like I kind of slipped it in earlier. There's even a bit where Dredd has a short rest. Like
That's
I think
true.
it fits quite well.
Maybe the only short rest actually ever depicted in the style that kind of D&D describes short rests in fiction. But
Like-
yeah, you're right. That like first aid kit reload, like that is a short rest. That's maybe the only situation where that has ever made sense.
He takes a kip over to the side, staples himself up, and we're back in the fight.
Yeah.
He reloads his
Gosh.
spell slots.
I hadn't even considered that, but like you're absolutely right. That is a textbook short rest.
So yeah, I actually surprisingly think 5e would do a good job of modeling this. As long as you strip out the I cast teleport and go to the top.
Yeah. My hot take is I feel like this is literally the kind of play that 4e was designed for.
The question was 5e, Rocky.
I
Add
know.
1 to that 4.
So my answer is like, no, I wouldn't run it in 5e. I would find one of the vanishingly few 4e revival groups and run it for them instead. But it is like this kind of delvey dungeony thing is what 4e was good at.
I mean, at this point in time, we're getting pretty close to the release of 13th Age 2nd Edition. So your 4e revival dream is coming back.
Yeah. I don't know if I need that dream to come true. I think maybe that dream is better, you know, in my head than it might be in real life sometimes. But there you go. That's the hot take for this episode. Is that Jordan thinks it would work in 5e, and I'm like, yet another bring back 4e moment.
Downship. But yeah, that's not a hot take. That's tepid at best.
Lukewarm. Would you run it?
I absolutely would. Like, I think this would be hella fun, and I would do this in Cyborg. Like, I'd make this up, and I'd roll it out.
Look, as we've described it, I've become more keen, but I don't think it's in my top 10 one-shots to run. I'd probably play in one. I'd give it a shot. Absolutely. If I saw this at a convention, I'd be like, oh yeah, I reckon that'd be a fun way to spend 3 hours. But I don't know if I'm in a super hurry to run this particular one.
I really love the structure. I think it's just so tight and elegant. And like, having played the Stygian Library, and I've never actually run or played in the Gardens of Yin, but I love depth crawls. I think they are just so elegant at doing what they do. They're clean design.
I think that's very fair. I've really enjoyed this as an exercise. I think the insights about like the quip and the like using of the toy, and those are the two aspects of the game that we want, and the movie has done such a good job of knitting them together. I'm like, that is peak insight. That is what I come to this podcast that I make for. But you know, I've had fun. I've had fun thinking about it. I don't think there's any further fun to be had by actually playing the game for this one, which is not normally how I feel about these. But this one, I'm like, this was a great intellectual exercise, and I have no interest in actually executing it.
The execution is left up to the listener.
Yeah, let's an exercise for the reader.
Execution is a specifically chosen word there.
Judge, jury, and execution left to the listener.
As a side note, I haven't seen, but it feels like it should exist, a parody game called Judge Judy Executioner.
I was going to make that joke, so it must exist.
It's got to, right? It's right there.
I was also going to make that joke at the top of the episode, and I did not make it because I'm like, I'm sure that's been done.
And like, it feels like college humor should have made a video about this 15 years ago, you know?
Exactly that. But it also feels like this should have been a a one-page RPG.
Don't put this in the pod. We're going to make that. Grant Howard, stop listening.
Yeah, how do we slide into Grant Howard's DMs? Like, Grant Howard, do you take requests? Judge Judy and Executioner. We've basically done all the work for you. We just need your textbook single page treatment.
We need you to draw a really
wit.
like shitty picture in black and white of Judge Judy, but she's holding 2 guns.
Yeah, she's got a ridiculous hat on.
And for some reason she has a powerful chin. Judge Judy hasn't shaved this morning and she's got a powerful chin out the bottom of her helmet.
Yeah.
Or we do this entirely the other side and it's just Judge Dredd in the courtroom adjudicating small claims disputes.
Oh, that's even better. Your crime, not washing the dishes.
And
Your
then he
sentence,
just still
death.
fucking kills them. In the televised version, we cut just before the gunshot.
Yeah, there's no banging
but
gavels.
we still
there's
have the
just...
scene where the like automatic floor cleaner wanders in and smears the corpse and blood along.
Look, maybe it's a twofer. Maybe the front page of the one-page RPG has one on it and the back page has the other one on it, and you don't know what you're playing until you like...
True 50-50.
Yeah. You flip the paper at the start of the game and whichever rule set comes up, that's what you're running. That's the version of Judge Judy and Executioner that you're running.
All right,
today.
we're a Judge Judy-based podcast now. We're going to get into the deep lore of the Jude.
Oh my god. Oh. All right. I think that's our last question, right? Would you run this as the last question?
Yeah, and I absolutely would. Which means we have come to the conclusion of another banger episode of Platonics.
I have still been Rocky.
And this week I continue to be Jords.
Jordan, you said weak.
On purpose.
Was it?
I made eye contact with you. I did the thing.
I said month at the start, and I was very proud of myself.
I did it for your benefit.
Yeah, thanks. Because we couldn't get through a whole episode without messing that one up.
It felt like a waste not to. You get one every episode.
Anyway, look. I'm gonna change up the order that we do things this week. We do the plugs. Because this episode was requested by one of our new best friends on Discord. So we have a Discord server. If you would like for us to do your favorite thing, whether that is Dredd, and more Dredd, as requested by user Tiger Claw. This one's for you, Tigers. If you have something that you want us to do, the best place to make us do it and make us be your puppets and dance for you is our Discord. There's a link to it in the show notes, and when you join, you'll be asked for your spiciest RPG take, and there's a great backlog to scroll through in the welcome channel. So hit us up on Discord. The other places you can find us are our website, platonics.net. There's a newsletter you can sign up to there too, where we do things that aren't talking. We do some writing instead. You can follow us on Blue Sky, Mastodon, and Threads. And obviously, you can subscribe and leave us a rating or a review wherever you get your podcasts. Wherever you're listening right now, just go back in there and tell that algorithm how much you enjoyed this experience inside your ear holes. Did I miss anything?
No, I'm happy with that. I'm going to give an extra cheeky plug to the Gardens of Yin and the Stygian Library. Both phenomenal depth crawls. Really good at showcasing what the medium is good for. 2 entirely different flavors.
I'm going to give an extra plug to
Judge Judy.
Not to Judge Judy. Judge Dredd 2012. What a thing to watch on a beautiful sunny Saturday morning.
Perfect film. Beautifully executed.
All right, that's it from us. We'll see you next month. Bye.
Love you, boy. I did say weak on purpose. I did it for
I know.
you.
I know. I saw your eye contact. Like a good game master, you were setting me up to roast you on purpose as well.